Horror movie hot takes. Picture's fucking crazy, by the way. Let's begin, shall we? Terrifier has brought out a new wave of insufferable snobs that think they're above everyone else for not liking it. I personally fucking hate Terrifier. Like, I personally can't stand Terrifier. And if somebody tells me that they're a fan of Terrifier, I just don't care about their horror movie opinion anymore. They should have just ignored dumbass audiences and went through with the anthology idea for the series, especially considering the fact that nearly every Halloween movie after this was complete dog shit. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Have I ever seen that movie? Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. 5 out of 10. Oh boy. Halloween, huh? I've never heard about this movie.
Put on your masks and watch.
Honey, don't get too close. You'll ruin your eyes. I think this whole thing is a big joke. I mean, look at this.
Damn, it's brain rot.
I mean, look.
Brain rot. Oh no. Damn. Oh! How did this movie? Why does this movie have a 5 out of 10? So this has nothing to do with like these Halloween movies. Wait, okay. 1982 American science fiction horror film, the third installment of Halloween film series. It is unique among the franchise entries for not featuring central antagonist Michael Myers. So they just fucked off and did a completely different movie? That's so weird. I guess that's why it got a really low score, because they wanted to see Michael Myers and he just wasn't in the movie. They should have just ignored dumbass audiences and went through with the anthology idea for the series, especially considering the fact that nearly every Halloween movie after. I honestly agree, man. I honestly agree with that. That's a baller. That's, yeah, for sure. Hereditary was a boring movie. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. The ignorance is insane. Slashers are the worst genre of horror. Definitely not. People who say slashers are the worst genre of horror truly do not know how low horror can go. Like, they truly have zero idea how awful horror can get. Like, not awful in a good way, like awful in uncreative, uninspired, bottom of the barrel, just like filth. Like, to the point of like, the people who have made it are just not good human beings, right? Slashers are definitely not the worst genre. I would say they're the worst mainstream genre, I would say. Maybe not. Maybe torture porn is a little bit worse, but torture porn is not really mainstream. Like, yeah, Saw was a thing, but Saw is like the only mainstream like torture porn, whatever. Like Hostel wasn't really that big ever. Saw is easily the biggest one, right? So slasher might be the worst mainstream, but definitely not the worst genre in general. There's so much filth. Just absolute pathetic filth of horror movies, for sure. I don't like Halloween or Friday the 13th. That's understandable. The only Friday the 13th that I will truly champion is Friday the 13th when they're in Manhattan. It's like Lost in Manhattan or some shit like that. Friday the 13th in Manhattan is the fucking one of the coolest movies ever, dude. I love that movie. I Saw the TV Glow is only considered a horror film because there's no genre called boring garbage bullshit movie. It wasn't scary is not a valid criticism of a horror movie. That's true. I agree with that, right? There's so many horror movies that I fucking love that just aren't scary to me, but I just love them, right? Like, I absolutely adore, like, The Thing was never scary to me. It was never scary, but it's my favorite movie of all time. It was never scary. Like, I watched it originally, never scary for me. I loved the Saw series, never scary. Evil Dead, never scary, but I love the movies. Like I don't get scared by horror unless it's like fucking jump scares and shit, like whatever, or unless I just decide to buy into it, right? It's not really they don't scare me ever. But I love practical effects. I love the uses of CGI. I love the good choreography. I love that in horror movies. Like that's the number one thing I'm looking for in a horror movie is good choreography. Like scene composition, like just scenes playing out, and you're just watching it evolve before your eyes as you're watching this like fucking crazy shit unfold. Right? That's what I'm looking for. So it's like. It wasn't scary is not a good criticism because yeah, if I only liked horror movies that scared me, I'd only like fucking bullshit schlocky loud jump scare movies, right? Smile was fucking ass and not worth all that promo. I personally don't get why Smile is such a big franchise. Every time I've seen the movie, every time I've seen clips of the first movie and the second movie, I just don't get it. Like it's not really even that cool to me. The only cool part of Smile 1 for me was obviously the ending with the puppet because the fucking practical effects on that puppet was insane. And then on Smile 2, they used the CGI thing, not the puppet. So I don't know. Scream doesn't work as a franchise. Should have just been one movie. I kind of agree with that. Yeah. I mean, the first movie is obviously the best one, you know, it always will be. Just because it's an A24 horror movie doesn't make it automatically good and it doesn't make you look deep or cool. I mean, A24 isn't really the people making the movie, but I guess I can agree. I mean, like, Blumhouse used to be the biggest horror dog on the yard, right? But then they kind of started realizing that they can just release low budget schlocky movies and they will still make $100 million off of it. So that's all they kind of do now. So they kind of have tarnished their reputation. All of the A24 movies that have come out, I have thoroughly enjoyed. But when they start getting lazy and they start doing the Blumhouse formula, then I will say they suck. But as far as I'm concerned, they only release bangers. So, or not only, but a good portion of what they release are bangers. So. There are more bad Halloween movies than good. That's very true. The Paranormal Activity movies are not scary. We'll go back to the other one. You can't. That's not a valid criticism. Also, the Paranormal Activity movies they go fucking hard. Like they go hard, man. That first one goes hard. Longlegs is overrated, and I don't like The Shining. I mean, I guess they're kind of on the same vibe. I guess, kind of. Longlegs was dope. I had fun with Longlegs. The marketing kind of made the movie seem way different than it was. It was more of like a mystery horror movie, mystery crime horror. They made it seem like it was gonna be like analog horror-esque, but then it just wasn't. You know, I don't know. Longlegs wasn't good. It was amazing. That's true. I liked it a lot. People don't want to admit certain reboots and remakes are better than the original movies. That's true. Nostalgia is a curse for sure. The Halloween franchise is the only good because Michael Myers is hot. Indie horror is better than the majority of mainstream big budget horror. That's true. Yeah, I agree. Hereditary is one of the worst films I've ever seen and it isn't scary. I am actually very confused on why it's considered a horror movie. So I guess here we go again with the isn't scary. I think they just don't get horror, you know? Like, you know how some people just don't get comedy? I think people who say it isn't scary for a horror movie, that's a critique. You don't get why we're here, you know? Like, you know? Scream franchise is extremely overrated. As a franchise, I agree, but as like the first film, highly disagree. Jamie Lee Curtis is the worst part of every Halloween movie and always has been. Well, I don't know why she just got a straight bullet. Okay. People that pull the it's just gore, no plot talking point about movies like Saw and Terrifier either didn't watch the movie or had their face in their phone the entire time. I agree that with Saw for sure, because Saw is, in my opinion, Saw is one of the most fun, like, crime mystery medias ever made. If you watched the movies, like, 1 to the end, which is 10. I don't know if I'm gonna watch 11 yet because I fucking hate that they're making 11. I fucking hate that, dude. 10 was such a perfect end to the Saw franchise, man. It was such a good homage to Jigsaw, right? But if you could skip Jigsaw, I guess, but just go back 1 through 10 and watch those. It is one of the best like crime mystery movies or medias ever made, for sure. Terrifier, I honestly could say it's just gore, no plot, and it kind of insists upon itself a little too hard, where it's like, because the Joker, it's trying to be like a Joker character, right? Like the Joker from Batman. It's trying to be that kind of character, Terrifier, whatever the fuck his name. I think his name is just Terrifier, right? I have no idea. He's just trying to be like a Joker character, but they don't really understand why the Joker is so iconic. And so really all it boils down to is, oh my God, look how silly he is. And then now watch him be gruesome. Like, oh my God, he's so silly. Hee. And then watch him do something fucking crazy. Like watch him do something over the top and weird and wacky. And look how quirky he is. Oh my God, he's so silly. It's just like, that's pretty much the entire movies, right? It's just like, I haven't seen them and I never will. But every clip I've seen of the movies, like on TikTok or whatever, has just been, oh my God, look how silly he is. Hee TT. And then he's just like, oh my God, I'm so silly. Ooh, ooh. And then he like boils the guy alive in acid or something, or like fucking, you know, cuts a guy's arm off, and then his sibling or significant other walks into the room and then he waves at her with the guy's severed arm or some shit. Like, I just made that up. I don't know if that actually happens, but like Terrifier, no plot, just gore, and look how silly and quirky he is. Tee hee hee. Art the Clown has earned his status as modern slasher icon, and the Terrifier is a good series. Who the fuck is Art? Is Art the Clown the guy in Terrifier? Art the Clown. Oh, it is. Yeah, okay. Has earned his status as modern slasher icon. He's a slasher? I thought it was torture porn or like gore porn. Cabin in the Woods is overrated in a bad meta commentary. I mean, it's okay to be wrong. You know, it's fine to be wrong, I guess, right? It's okay to be wrong, right? Cabin in the Woods is a phenomenal movie. You should absolutely go watch it. It's a great commentary on horror as a medium, and insists upon the Scooby-Doo theory of like slasher movies, right? Psychological horror will always be the best kind of horror, in my opinion. Well, it's not really a hot take if you say in my opinion. A hot take has to be a fact, right? Like, you have to fucking put your chest out when you say that shit, right? Psychological horror is very good. I personally think I like cosmic horror the most. But that's just me, right? The classic slashers are basically the Avengers of horror movies. People who like them are the most boring type of horror fans. Classic slashers are the Avengers of horror. I mean, I can agree with that, right? Like, it's the most marketable. There's mascots, there's costumes, there's toys. I can agree with that, right? I can agree with that for sure. My girlfriend, when we were just friends at the time, she would give me like birthday presents and shit. And they would always be of like classic horror slashers like Michael Myers and Scream, and not even really Scream, just like Texas Chainsaw and shit like that, and Chucky. And I never had the heart to tell her I'm not into that kind of horror. Like, I like Scream probably the most out of all the old slasher people. But I'm just not really into that genre that much. And now that we're together, she knows about like liminal spaces and fucking that analog horror and fucking we got high and watched fucking Skinamarink, and we loved it. Like, she's like neck deep in horror now, right? So obviously it's like she knows now, but it was just funny. I was like, okay, thank you, appreciate that, man. Making horror movies based on true stories are ethically questionable at best and incredibly offensive at worst. The Girl Next Door. Horror? The Girl Next Door. Horror. Images. What the fuck? No. Oh no. Damn it. Dude, how is that on there, man? I searched Girl Next Door horror. How is that on there? No. What do you mean? Whatever. Fuck it. Who gives a shit, dude? I mean, I can agree with the sentiment, right? Like, obviously playing off of fact that it really happened is not very nice, especially as a horror movie, right? But I think saying it's a real movie, like based on real events, is perfectly fine, right? Midsummer has too much overshadowing in the film that it made it immediately predictable. I don't think it's predictable. Predictable is probably the last thing I would say to describe Midsummer. I never once saw this movie and was like, yeah, I really, you know what I really think's gonna happen? I think they're gonna stuff this guy in a bear. I don't know. I just have a feeling that they're gonna stuff this guy inside a bear. I can't really explain why. Random sex scenes in horror movies are unnecessary. They are unnecessary if they're not following the Scooby-Doo plot, but if they are, or the Scooby-Doo method, or like whatever theory, it's kind of giving you nostalgia, right? It's giving you a nod. If you're an old horror movie head, and you know the formulas and shit, then a random, like a sex scene is like giving you the light bulb, like, oh, this person's gonna die. Like, you know, like in any time that's like there's like a horror movie that has a dog in it or an animal in it, I'm like, that animal's gonna die for sure. Or like, yeah, anytime there's like a blonde ditzy chick that's having sex immediately and she's on top, for sure, she's dying immediately, dude. If she's on top, for sure, dying immediately. The Babadook is one of the worst films I've ever seen. If it's, I want to ask him why, because if he just says that kid is annoying, then the movie did its job, right? Because the whole point of the movie is to make you turn on the kid, and then like the mom is turning on the kid, right? But then halfway through, or like the second act, he wins you back over, just like he's winning the mom back over. So the movie is taking you on the same emotional roller coaster that the kid's taking the mom on. That's the whole point of the movie. Anything to do with Conjuring, the Nun spinoffs, Act is just the biggest load of shit. I mean, Conjuring as a series, fucking goated. But the spinoffs are pretty terrible. The Annabelle movie, the first one was pretty good, I feel like, though, if I remember correctly. I hate Split. Honestly, I kind of do too. I liked it kind of when I first watched it, but then anytime I go back and rewatch it or try to or see a clip of it, I just don't really like it. It kind of sucks, you know? Like, I really liked it when it first came out and I first watched it. But kind of like Midsummer. I've watched Midsummer, like finished it probably 10 times now. And every single time I watched it after like the second time, I've hated it a little bit more. And the last time I watched it was when I first showed it to my girlfriend. And I fucking hated it. I could not stand watching that movie. But I just cut my mouth shut because I wanted to show her, you know, a movie that's good. It's a good movie. It's well made. I like the movie, but I just fucking hated it last time I watched it, man. A horror movie isn't inherently better just because it's psychological or subtle. Subtle's kind of interesting, but like psychological is like a genre of horror, you know? Psychological is like a subgenre of horror. So there's obviously bad psychological horror movies. You know, and obviously if you're too subtle, then people won't get it. But I guess it's kind of like Skinamarink, right? Like Skinamarink, I love Skinamarink. And I think it's more sad than anything. Like if you truly sit down and watch Skinamarink and absorb the situation of what's happening in this world of the Skinamarink, right? It's really fucking sad. It's these like 4-year-olds. Or like 4, I think the oldest is 6, I think, or and one of the kids is 4, and their parents disappear, and there's no windows and doors. and they just don't know any better. Like, for all they know, this could just be a thing that happens. And they're just trying to figure it out the best they can. And the best they can is just making cereal and watching cartoons and just thugging it out, you know? So it's just a sad fucking movie. And I think it's really well made. And I like it a lot. So subtle can be a thing that's like shit for other people, but really good for people who want to get it, or like, you know, psychological is better than jump scares and all that other nonsense. I mean, I guess I like how he says psychological is better than jump scares, and he has a Jeff the Killer profile picture. It's like it's like saying that like stalker horror movies are bad, and then you have a profile picture of Slender Man. Why is it always so dark? I want to see the movie. Well, then watch horror movies that take place in daytime. I don't know. Old horror movies suck. Okay. Hard disagree, obviously, because my favorite movie was made in the 80s, and Night of the Living Dead is it's probably my favorite zombie movie ever. Saying that when the 80s exists is insane. Like horror, if the 80s horror like wave never happened, horror would either completely non-exist or just be completely different and be way worse. We'll die on the hill that just because a horror film wasn't scary, it doesn't mean it was bad. Some people just don't understand the craft of horror flick. Fucking absolutely, dude. Abso-fucking-lutely. Smile 2 sucked, and it only praised because of mob mentality positivity. I honestly agree, honestly. I just don't get Smile. I don't get it, man. Because I had the same opinion of Annihilation, where I just didn't fuck with it. It looked like it sucked. And then on my TikTok, the bear scene popped up. And I'm like, oh fuck, what is this? Like, does this go hard? And I went to the theater and watched it that night, and it was fucking amazing. I loved it. It's one of the craziest shits ever. And so I'm like, oh shit, is Smile like a actual thing that the fucking like marketing just sucked, like Annihilation did? And then I looked more into it, and I'm like, wait, what do you mean? They just smile at you? Like, there's no monsters, there's no other there's no like puppets or practical effects or what? Like, it's just they just smile at you? Like, I was so confused. Oh my god, I just don't get it. I don't get it, man. People shouldn't call the directors or creators of horror films with horror elements problematic or weird just because they make a fucked up movie. It's fictional. As long as the actors are treated with respect and the directors aren't creeps in real life. Hard disagree. I mean, if you say this, you either like the kind of movies that I think are just like cesspool garbage, or you just don't know they exist, right? Like, for all I know, this guy is talking about like fucking Evil Dead 2013, like, you know, or something pretty tame in terms of like how low a horror movie can go. I don't know. Horror movies are the hallmark movies. Horror movies are the hallmark movies of the movie genre. Okay. Horror movies are the hallmark movies of the movie genre. You know exactly what's going to happen. You get mad at the protagonist for being stupid. When you get to the end, you realize you could have been better time watching what they referenced in the show instead. We're going to reread this a couple times, and we're going to get through it together, okay? Hold on. Horror movies are the hallmark movies of the movie genre. Of the movie genre. Of the movie genre. Horror movies. I think he's meaning to put like a subgenre here. Like, if he said slasher movies are the hallmark movie of the horror genre, then that would make sense. Or, you know, something, right? But horror movies are a genre, and Hallmark movie is a genre. So how is horror movies the hallmark movies of the movie genre when Hallmark movies are the hallmark movies of the movie genre? I don't get that. Okay. Almost all modern horror films don't understand the concept of building suspense and letting the audience figure things out for the film progresses. So instead, they just use endless jump scares and large amounts of gore. In other words, they no longer know how to write. I think what he was trying to say was that they like lore dump too much in horror movies. I noticed that a lot in a lot of the more mainstream, like big budget horror movies. They have jump scares and then they lore dump, and then they jump scare you and then they lore dump, and it's just like, oh, okay. The Terrifiers movies are slop. I highly agree. Halloween Resurrection's top 3 of the franchise. Halloween Resurrection. Is this the one with Busta Rhymes? I agree if it is the one with Busta Rhymes. It Follows just wasn't made for me. I didn't really get it either. I don't know. It's a scary STD. That's all it is. Skinamarink was actually so boring. Wow, that's such a hot take. Holy shit, brother. That's crazy. What a hot take. Skinamarink was boring. Holy shit, brother. Don't ever, dive into a film, right? The Blair Witch Project is a horrible movie, hands down. None of the Resident Evil movies are actually bad. The Ari fandom just hates fun. At least the first Resident Evil movie was really fucking good, because I haven't really watched the other ones. But I do agree with the Ari fandom just hates fun. I kind of agree with that. Like the fixed camera angle gang of Ari fans, they are definitely a little pretentious for sure. Sidney Prescott has always been annoying and unlikable. I mean, they kind of... Man, a lot of these opinions, they are getting played by the movie. Like they're getting played like a fiddle, right? And they don't realize that that's kind of the point of the movie, right? Like they go out of their way to make you not like Sydney because you're wondering who the killer is the whole time. And then she rats on her boyfriend, and then her boyfriend is seemingly innocent, right? And so you're not sure if she's overreacting or not. It's kind of like the Babadook, right? Like if you tell me you don't like the Babadook and it's because the kid was annoying, then you're a fucking idiot. Like you clearly don't know what you're talking about. Like you have no concept of what horror movies are, or like what movies in general are. If you say you don't like Babadook because the kid was annoying, or you didn't like Skinamarink because it was boring, like so I don't know. It's just fucking silly. The Thing 2011 is not as bad as people want you to believe. I mean, I have eyeballs that work. And the fucking earring, dude. The earring at the end. Oh my God, so stupid. Ghostface is not hot at all. I'm sorry. Are you saying that to us, or are you trying to say that to yourself? Ghostface is not hot. I don't think he's hot.